to the fun part of the show. Obviously, football is back. We mentioned it earlier on the intro, and it's time to give some predictions because it's going down this Thursday. And where we want to begin is we want to give some division winners. We want to give our wild card teams. We want to give some bowl predictions and Super Bowl predictions. So, Zach, the way how I'm thinking is that we'll start off with the division winners and also give some bold predictions in between, or division winners and give our wild card, and then we can sprinkle in the two bold predictions per conference, and we could begin like that. So, Zach, if we want to start off, we can start off in the NFC. I'm thinking let's talk about the NFC East.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. That sounds good to me. So the NFC East, the one thing I find crazy about this division is that we haven't had a repeat winner in over 20 years. If you win the NFC East one year, for the past 2 decades, you're not winning it the following year. However, especially after this Micah Parsons trade, I think that streak comes to an end this year. I'm going with the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles to win the NFC East. Not some crazy bold take there, but I'm a believer in Jalen Hurts. I think after his season last year, he established himself as a top 5 quarterback in the game. Saquon Barkley coming back for another year. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Carter's only getting better on the defensive side of the ball. I think Howie Roseman and the 2 draft picks of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean could really change the trajectory and the future of this team because 2 years ago, it was clear that secondary was their one weakness. Now it's a legitimate strength. With that being said, my one concern about this team is the depth in the secondary. They lose some key players, not only in the secondary, but on the defensive side of the ball that they're going to have to replace. Andrew Makuba, the 2nd-round pick from Clemson, I think he's going to, or from Texas, I should say, he transferred from Clemson. I think he's going to be a key piece for this team. The better he gets, as soon as he gets better, that's something that's going to be very important. And also, another offensive coordinator. They do lose Kellen Moore to the Saints, so how are they able to replace him? Kevin Patullo, who was with Philadelphia originally, he was a member of Sirianni's staff. They're just going to elevate him from, I believe, the passing game coordinator position. We'll see how Jalen Hurts is able to deal with that, but that's nothing new for him. He has a new offensive coordinator every year. I believe it's for the last 6 or 7 years. He's had a new play caller in his ear. So, yeah, nothing real complicated here, Will. I'm going with the Eagles in the NFC East to break this crazy streak of no repeat winner in over 2 decades.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Eagles. Zach, I don't know if you got a record, but I got a record for my winners. I'm going to go 12-4. Zach, what you thinking with the Eagles record? You thought about that, or?
Yeah, I'll go 12-5.
It's 13-4. I'm going to go 13-4 with the Eagles. I got them losing 4 games, and I think the defending champs, they have too much talent. As much as I wanted to go Washington there, I'm a big Jayden Daniels guy. I think they have the best quarterback. Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in this division. But the Eagles have too much talent. I think they benefit the most from the Michael Parsons exit. I think both sides of the ball have no holes. Saquon Barkley is still alive and running hard. The offensive line is still elite. You still have the most unstoppable play that really, and when you think about it, is like 4 downs or 5 downs. You have elite trenches game, right? And I think a lot of people forget, when we look at talent and skills position, we forget that the most important part of the game in football is the trenches. You look at the starting duo of Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, who I said earlier in the show had a massive playoffs. This guy, I'm expecting big things from him in this next year. You talk about the O-line that's able to block for Jalen Hurts, and you talk about the RPO game that's hard to stop as well. You talk about A.J. Brown, a luxury when needed, and Devontae Smith. We can't forget about him. He made some big plays in the Super Bowl. This team has no holes, and that's why, for me, I can't even get fancy. I can't get creative. They're going to win the NFC East, and I got them winning it with a 13-4 record. Zach, let's move on here. Let's go to the NFC West. Who do you like to win that division, and why?
I'm going to go with the bounce-back season from the 49ers, and I know this was a season from hell for this team last year, but simply put it, Will, I still believe in Kyle Shanahan. I know this is a guy that we've been talking about for a long time here on this show, and that's because up until last year, it seemed like he had a team that was making deep playoff runs each and every year. And despite the fact that he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, I still do think this guy is one of the best coaches in the game. And last year, I believe we mentioned it before last season, like they were just due for a bad injury year, because the year before, when they made it to the Super Bowl, the whole team stayed healthy. And I'm looking at two guys in particular. Last year, Trent Williams only played in 10 games. Last year, Christian McCaffrey only played in 4 games. I'm banking on both those guys to stay healthy. And I know that's a risk, but there's no denying that those are 2 Hall of Fame level players. And if those 2 guys are healthy and in the lineup, I don't see how this team isn't good. I'm a believer in Brock Purdy. I thought despite the injuries around him last year, he played pretty well. I thought he played well enough to earn the contract he got in the offseason. I think Ricky Pearsall could be in for a breakout year. I loved what I saw from him at the back end of last season. George Kittle, I think, is in for another monster year. And I love the return of Robert Saleh on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's going to make this defense a lot better. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, 2 key staples on those teams of years past that have made deep playoff runs, will be back. I also love the draft pick of Mykel Williams, the rookie linebacker from Georgia, in the first round. I think he's going to be in the running for defensive rookie of the year. So I'm going with the 49ers. I know that this was a very disappointing team last year, but I think they bounce back. And if you look at their schedule, it is among the easiest schedules in the league. They got some good luck there. So I'm going with San Francisco in the NFC West. I'm going to go 11-6 for the 49ers.
Just responding to you real quickly, man. As much as, I would like to think that last year for the 49ers was a case of the injury bug hit us, and what we put forth to the American people last year wasn't us. It was just the injuries. It was the Brandon Ayuk injury. It was the Trent Williams injury. It was us, the CMC injury. It was us not playing 49er football because of the injuries. But I just can't buy that fully. I think when you have a golden opportunity, when you have as much dominance, think about it. Everybody talk about Kansas City's dominance. Sure, we have to. They won championships. But when you look at it from the NFC perspective, who is a team that we can say was as dominant in their conference as Kansas City was in theirs? 49ers, off the rip, no question. Multiple NFC championships, a couple Super Bowls. They had 2 cracks at it against, ironically, the Chiefs, and lost both. I think we thinking that it's going to come together for Mr. Kyle Shanahan. I think that door has closed. And I think in this conference, is way better than what people are giving it credit for. I think the Cardinals got to get respected. I think the Seahawks got to get respected. And I also think the Rams got to get respected as well. Clearly, they are respected. We know the talent over there. But I'm just not sold on the 49ers. Do they have a winning record? We'll see where I have it. If I had them in my wild card team or not. But as far as winning the division, Zach, I can't lie. I'm out. I'm out. Maybe Brock Purdy shows that he's worth the money and he's a talent elevator instead of a guy that's being held together by the talent. Maybe there's a happy medium. Maybe he's not the best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe he's not the worst quarterback in the NFL. Maybe it's another Jalen Hurts type of situation where I'll make plays to win when my number's called. Cool. We'll see. But it's not about Kyle Shanahan. It's not about the talent. I just think it's way past due for them. And eventually, all empires fall. And I'm expecting this empire to fall. But if I had to give you my team, I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams to win this division. I'm going to go with 11-6. Now, this is the disclaimer here. Okay. Is Matthew Stafford back shot? Okay. Is his back shot? All right. Is his back being held together by duct tape? What are we doing here? Okay. Is he healthy to go or not? Because if he is, I think they win this division. Now, will he play a full 17 games? Who knows? Okay. It's a likelihood that he might miss a couple games. But in such scenario, you do have the veteranship experience to rely on with Jimmy G as your backup quarterback. That's why backup quarterbacks in the NFL are becoming more important to football teams around the league because of injuries that always happens every single year. That's why you pay the bucks for a backup quarterback. That's why you go for the experience with a backup quarterback. And look, I was very impressed with Sean McVay's coaching job last year. And look, this guy won a championship. This guy has been a consistent coach ever since he took the job, ever since he came and took a below average team that was irrelevant to prominent heights. But I can make the argument that the last couple of years has been even more impressive. You trade away Aaron Donald retires. Okay, you don't have draft picks over the last couple of years. You finally do. You draft well. You show that you can actually coach and develop talent. It's not about trading picks anymore for guys that we know about, who we all know is going to produce when they get on the football field. Now you're doing it the opposite way. Now you're drafting and developing guys. You got this kid in Jared Verse, who I think this year will be in Defensive Player of the Year conversations. I like the addition of Devontae Adams alongside Puka. We don't got to talk about the offense. We know that offense, if healthy, is going to hum. I trust Stafford. I trust the firepower, and I trust Sean McVay's brain power to push the Rams over the top of this division with a 11-6 record.
Okay, I do have some thoughts on the Rams that may or may not come up later in the show during one of our other segments. So let's move on.
All right, let's go to the NFC South. Zach, I'm going to pass the mic over to you again. Who do we like in the NFC South and why?
All right, so I started off this show by picking the defending Super Bowl champions to win their division in the Eagles in the NFC East. I picked the 49ers to win the NFC West. They're actually the favorites in Vegas right now to win that division. I know they had a disappointing year last year, but that shouldn't be some surprise. Like, this is a team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So that they're a legit contender in my mind. I don't think that's some stunning pick. It's time to spice things up a little bit. I understand the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the NFC South for the past 5 years now, and then the 1 year they didn't win it was they were a wild card and they won the Super Bowl. So we know that this team has gone to the playoffs in each of the last 6 seasons, which has been 5 seasons actually, which has been very, very impressive. But I don't think they win this division. I do think that this is the year that losing another offensive coordinator catches up to them a little bit. Liam Cohen was just a difference maker, and as great of a season as Baker Mayfield had last year, I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to do it again with a new offensive coordinator in Josh Grizzard, who none of us know anything about. He was on that staff last year, but let's see if he could come anything close to what Liam Cohen did last year. So I think the offense is going to take a little bit of a step back, not only because of the new play caller, but also they just have a ton of injuries right now. I mentioned it on this show the day it happened. Tristan Wirfs. You need him in the lineup. He's going to be out the first month, maybe longer. And when he comes back, who knows if he's going to be the same player he always is. That's a big concern in my book. Chris Godwin, a really good player, but he's injury prone. He's going to be out to start the season. That's a problem. Jalen McMillan, their young wide receiver they drafted a few years ago from Washington, who played well last year in his limited action. He's hurt to start the year. So I just think the injuries on the offensive side of the ball are a concern. The defense, I don't think it's that good. Like, all of a sudden, the Buccaneers don't really have that many players from that team a few years back with Tom Brady that won a Super Bowl outside of Vita Vea and Antoine Winfield, who's really good, but he has trouble staying healthy. I think this defense is average at best. Todd Bowles has done a solid job, but I don't view him as some great head coach. I think his teams are vulnerable. So, yeah, I'm out on the Buccaneers. I think they're going to regress in a big way. And I just don't trust the Atlanta Falcons. Like, I've picked this team to win the division for the last 2 years. I'm not doing it again. And I like their pieces on offense. Michael Penix, I'm a believer in. Bijan Robinson, Drake London. We all know the cast of characters. But I think coaching is a major concern for this team. They should have won the division last year, and Raheem Morris didn't help that cause. I'm thinking about that game on Sunday Night Football in Washington, Michael Penix's first career start. They should have won that game, but Raheem Morris's clock management blew it. Everyone is hyping up Zach Robinson because he's a Sean McVay guy. I'm out. I was very unimpressed by his play calling last year, and I don't think this defense is going to be very good either. I know they used premium draft capital on a couple pass rushers in the first round. James Pierce from Tennessee. They gave up next year's first-round pick to go get him. They also drafted Jalen Walker from Georgia. I think both those guys are talented players, but I don't think they're all of a sudden going to come in and turn around this defense. So with that being said, yeah, I'm saying it. The Carolina Panthers are winning the NFC South. Bryce Young is going to break out. I think he's ready to emerge as one of the best quarterbacks in the game. I think Tet McMillan could be in the mix for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He is an absolute stud. Throw him the ball, he will catch it. And I think this defense is going to be improved. They had brutal health on that side of the ball last year. I'm banking on Derek Brown to stay healthy. I'm banking on J.C. Horn to stay healthy. I like some of the additions they made in free agency in the draft. And keep in mind, Will, every year there is a team that wins their division completely out of nowhere, a team that we just flat out don't see coming. I think Carolina is going to be that team for me this year. I'm picking them to win the NFC South.
Yeah, I mean, look, clearly you are high on the Panthers this year, and I understand why. You've seen the glimmer of hope, you know, that the Pope couldn't give you when it came to Bryce Young and the improvement with his play last year after being benched. We've seen the preseason. He looked, you know, calm and collective. And I understand that perspective. And I understand why you would be high on them. I think they're a sneaky team. I think they're very dangerous. You know, the Falcons are a bit of a mystery team to me. I like Penix. I like the talent. But again, I think you raise valid concerns about coaching over there. You know, is Raheem Morris a head coach, right? We know he's a good defensive coordinator, one of the best. That's why he got a job a second time. But is he that guy as a head coach, as a leader of men with all the situational management and things that happens with coaches, that things that matter, that win you ball games, right? I understand that. I understand the Saints are trash, and they're going to be trash this year. Nobody's going to talk. We didn't even mention the Saints here. I could proceed and not mention them as well because I don't think they're going to be any good. That leaves us with the Buccaneers. And look, I understand your valid concerns about injuries, about defensive play, but I do believe that the talent on offense is just so spectacular that I still think they're going to win this division. And look, when you look at their seasons the last couple of years, they only won 10 games last year. The year before that, they won 9 games. They have not had a stranglehold over this division. Now, granted, in years of how many years in a row they won it, yes, they have a stranglehold. But the last couple of years, they haven't took this division and ran with it, right? And I still think it's going to be the same thing. I don't think they're going to take this division and run with it. However, Baker Mayfield has run with the job. All right, he has taken it and ran with it. Consistent 4,000-yard passing year to year. And I have no reason to believe that he won't do it again. I think he's going to throw for 4,500 yards this year. Right? I think Mike Evans, you still got Mike Evans. You still got Chris Godwin when healthy. You got Nate McMillan. You got Amika Egbok. Okay, Amika Egbuka. There we go. Okay, you know, names, right? Names, you got to pronounce them, right? You got a lot of toys on the field. And credit to Jason Light for his ability to draft, making the transition from the GOAT to a struggling quarterback at the time in Baker Mayfield. He has put together a great team, you know, over the years, and they've been drafted well. And look, Todd Bowles is not a bad coach. Now, is he the best coach in the league, Zach? Obviously not. Okay. Is situational management a question or a concern that I had with his coaching? Absolutely. I think that's what's going to cap this team ceiling in regards to competing in the playoffs. A lot of people is calling Baker Mayfield the top 10 quarterback. That's arguable. I still think we giving him too much love, but it's arguable. You can make the case he is. I have him number 12. But I think what's going to hold this team back is coaching and situational management. But right now, we're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking about the teams that are going to get there. And Zach, we're going to move on to the NFC North. And I guess I do the honors here. I'm going to go with, and this is tough. This division is wide open. I'm going to go with the Packers. I'm going to go with the Packers. Look, for the reasons we talked about earlier on the show, they won it. This division is so wide open. The Lions are going to be a very good team still this year. I'm not going to wave the flag on them despite the loss of the coordinators. I still think you have Jared Goff's experience to rely and fall back on, his familiarity with his teammates, the chemistry that he has with his teammates, the talent of Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra. There's too much talent and experience here for them to take this significant downhill fallback because of the loss of 2 coordinators. And granted, coordinators are big. They're big contributors to team success. But I think this team, as well as being well coached, I think Dan Campbell showed last year that he is a very good coach in the league, that they will be able to maintain. I just don't think it's good enough to win this division. The Vikings, you're ushering in a rookie quarterback in the middle of contention. That could be a tight rope. That could be a fine line. It's hard for me to pick this team to win this division. I am a fan of J.J. McCarthy. I do believe that a lot of the quarterbacks taken in that first round is where they're supposed to be. J.J. is one of them. However, we have to expect some regression from last year and the year before quarterback play. You had Kirk Cousins throw for 4,000 yards. You had Sam Darnold do the same thing. Is it going to be reasonable to expect the same thing here with a rookie quarterback? I don't know. but I do think he will be a good quarterback. I think we have to give him that grace period. I'm not going to pick the Vikings. You look at the Bears. The Bears, no. Okay. I'm not going to go with them. I think Caleb Williams will definitely improve. I think we'll see enough flashes this year to be like, okay, this guy can play. Yeah, maybe not the hype, surrounding him, but yeah, he's there. He could be something, down the line with more experience, with more camaraderie with his coordinator and Ben, his head coach, coordinator slash, right? And I like the fact that they got the two tight ends. I like the fact of what I saw in the preseason. I just don't think they're ready right now. I got to go to the Packers. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to lose 5 games. I got them, 4. I think they're going to lose 4 games. Look, the teams that beat them last year was the NFC North, their division, and the Eagles. Obviously, this year they got to prove that they can win in their division. I think they will prove that. The Michael Parsons trade is a game changer. And sure, I was already up in the air. I was trending that way before the trade. Now I'm definitely going in that direction. He's going to impact the games in ways Jalen Carter, Chris Jones, and Aaron Donald can, like I mentioned earlier on the show. I like the fact that they have been aggressive. They've done things they're not normally doing, like drafting a wide receiver in the first round. My question is, Zach, and I'll leave us with this, is can Mike LaFleur show us that he's still that guy? He's still underrated, that he's not a byproduct of Aaron Rodgers. Because last year I thought his coaching was not great. His teams were not prepared. His team started off slow. His teams turned the ball over, played from behind. If they can play ahead of the curve, I think this team is way more dangerous to play ahead as opposed to playing from behind. So if he can strategize, have the great game plan, a healthy Jordan Love to be able to be more creative and have him, under center more to run play action, I like this team. I think they win this division. I got them losing only 4 games, 13-4.
I do agree. I'm going to take Green Bay to win this division as well. I think they'll be a little bit worse. I'll pick them to go 11-6. But I thought you brought up some good points. Parsons is obviously a difference maker. I think Josh Jacobs is in for a monster year. I think that signing is going to be one that we look back on and say, wow, I know paying an older running back is risky, but they nailed it. I think he's going to really help Jordan Love, who, by the way, he got hurt last year in the first game on that field in Brazil. We're actually going to see that field again this week on Friday. Chiefs and Chargers getting the season underway there. But it felt to me that everything went wrong for this team last year, and they still made the playoffs. And that's impressive for me. And I think they're going to be even better this year. I love the Parsons addition. I love the addition of Matthew Golden. I think their defense is going to take a step forward. I think they will be a top 10 defense in the league. I'm in on this team. Good offensive line as well. I trust LaFleur. Give me Green Bay to win the division as well.
All right, so there you have our division winners. Okay, and Zach, I don't know if you want to go bold predictions next and then go with the wild card, or should we just go with the wild card, then bold predictions?
Let's finish with the wild cards. I don't have too much here, but my 3 wild cards are actually going to be all teams that made the playoffs last year, but I don't think they're going to win their division. So I will go with Detroit as a wild card. I think they did get a little bit worse. Of course, losing Ben Johnson, losing Aaron Glenn. They do have some major question marks at the coordinator spots. They lose Frank Ragnow as well on the offensive line. That's a big loss. But I still trust Dan Campbell enough where I think he'll bring this team to the playoffs. Gibbs, St. Brown, Laporta, Goff, Hutchinson will be back healthy. Branch. There's just way too much talent on this team for them to miss the playoffs. I think Detroit's a wild card. I do think Washington, the Commanders, will be a wild card. I do think there are a lot of signs on this team that there could be some regression coming. This team won every one-possession game last year. They picked up every key 4th down, it seemed like. They just found ways to win. So I do think that could regress to the mean a little bit, which is why I don't think they're a championship contender. I don't know how much of an impact their big offseason additions are going to make with Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil. But I do know when you have Jayden Daniels as your quarterback, you're going to make the playoffs. I think he will do enough to carry them there. I have Washington as a wild card. And then my final wild card is going to be the Rams. I know you picked them to win the division. I just trust Sean McVay. I trust the young defensive line. I think they're going to continue getting better and better as they did last year. And although there are some questions with Stafford, I'm going to explain a little bit more in my bold prediction when it comes to why I will have the Rams making the playoffs. So those are my 3 wild cards: the Lions, the Commanders, and the Rams. I think they all win about 10 games.
Yeah, good picks. I would like to make a correction. I actually have the Packers losing 5 games. Okay, I have the Packers going 12-5, not winning 13 games. I got them winning 12 games. My 3 wildcard teams in the NFC are the Commanders, Lions, and Seahawks. The Commanders, I got them being 12-5, so I literally have them just falling short of winning the division. Remember, I have the Eagles losing 4. I got the Commanders losing 5. I think the Commanders are going to be very close to winning this division, but I believe the head-to-head may make the difference, or the record will make the difference as well. Look, I think. Listen, I'm gonna save some of my take for the Commanders with my bold prediction. I think they're ready to still the Eagles are still ahead of the class, but they're right there. They are very dangerous. They're very young and talented. I'm glad they got the Terry McLaurin contract situated. Now they can put that behind them and move forward. I think they running game, although the trading of B Rob, I still think this running game could be very dynamic, especially considering not only the running back by committee, but you got Jayden Daniels. Defensively, I think they could be a little bit stronger. I think that's the thing I would worry about. We saw the Eagles dominate them. I thought the Eagles were bigger, more physical. So we'll see if that part is able to get better this year, and we'll see if they're able to, get over that hump against the Eagles, because the Eagles are clearly in their division. They're clearly the defending champs. The Lions, look, I'm not going to count them out. I got them going 11-6 as a wild card team. Another good team here, just falling short behind Green Bay. I think the Lions are definitely being disrespected. There's too much worry there about the loss of the coordinators. Again, Jared Goff has experience for a reason. Jared Goff, okay, alert, is actually a very good quarterback in this league, a very consistent quarterback in this league. I'm not worried about them defensively. We should be higher on them defensively compared to how last year went with all them injuries. Seattle. I'll talk about Seattle more in my bold prediction as well. So, Zach, I guess we might as well go there with our bold predictions. I want to give you, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you both. And then you can give me both in the conference. My first bold prediction I have is going to be, I'm going to stay with Seattle. I think that Sam Darnold will throw for 4,000 yards again. Okay. And I understand it's a bold prediction because a lot of people think what he did last year in Minnesota was an aberration. A lot of people think last year was just strictly a byproduct of being in the best situation in football with Kevin O'Connell and all the weapons, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. But I think a lot of people need to realize that, yeah, sure, it may have been peak Sam Darnold, but I still think he can be a solid quarterback in this system, this situation. If we just want to put it in a situational context, this situation is not that bad. I think offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak is a very good coordinator, very good play caller. I'm very pleased on what I saw in the preseason, how in sync this offense looked. I think they can run the football with KW3 and what's the other dude? Number 26, Charbonnet. I think both of those guys are going to give you a nice running back duo, but defensively, okay, can we talk about this team defensively? Because I think this could be the best defensive football. Okay, you got Mike McDonald, a guy that we know his ability to disguise pressure, maximize the roster. And there's not a lot of roster to maximize here. They got a lot of talent. They got Tariq Woolen. They got Devin Witherspoon. They got Dexter Lawrence. You combine that with Mike McDonald's ability to maximize personnel, this team defensively should be dominant. That means more possessions for Sam Darnold. Again, offense, I don't think they're that bad. They got JSN. They got Cooper Kupp if he's able to stay on the field. And Sam Darnold is a talented quarterback with his arm. Okay, like I said, there was a couple throws last year that he made that was some big time throws. Now, I understand we look at the last 2 games last year. Oh my gosh, it's scary. Yeah, it was horrible. He showed that, all right, there's levels. He's not in club elite yet. He's not top 10, obviously. But I still think he can be productive. And that's the point. So my bold prediction number 1 is that I believe Sam Darnold will throw for another 4,000 yards. Zach, I'll let you respond if you want to.
So I was close to picking Seattle. I think they're going to be a pretty good team. I honestly think they're going to be a very similar team to how they were last year, maybe a little bit worse. I think we forget this team did win 10 games last year. They didn't make the playoffs, but they had a pretty good year. The question is, though, like, did they downgrade at quarterback or did they upgrade? Because I'm in the fence that they downgraded. I do agree with you with the defense. I think it's going to be among the league's best. But the reason I couldn't get there is because, I still have major questions about the offensive line, and that was their big weakness last year. They couldn't block. And that combined with Sam Darnold, the guy that we know crumbles under pressure, is a huge concern for me. Clint Kubiak is an X factor. He might be really good. I think it's hard to tell, though, because if you remember, the Saints last year in their first 2 games came out looking like the 2007 Patriots. They couldn't stop scoring the football. It was crazy. But then everyone got hurt, and their season was basically over. So Clint Kubiak might be really good. He might not be. I really don't know. I think he's a huge X factor. I also have concerns about the health of Kenneth Walker. I think he's a really good, talented player, but he just cannot seem to stay healthy. I'm also not sure how much Cooper Kupp has left. I think if he really still had a lot of juice left, the Rams would have kept him. Obviously, they decided to move on. And this team does lose DK Metcalf. This team does lose Geno Smith. So for that reason, I could not get there on them being a playoff team.
All right, Zach, I'm going to hit you with my last NFC bold prediction. Then I'm going to flip it back to you. My bold prediction, NFC number 2 is, and this is very bold, even more bold than the last one. Jayden Daniels will be the first quarterback since Peyton Manning in 2008 to win the NFL MVP without winning his division. Okay? And look, I said it before. I think the Commanders are going to come up a little bit short of winning the division. I still have them winning 12 games and making the playoffs. I get it. Most MVPs win their division. Most MVPs are a top 2 seed. But I do believe that Jayden Daniels is going to have such an electric season that he will win the award. We all know that Hurts may or may not be penalized because of his surrounding talent. We know the norm around him, right? The talent is carrying, right? And like I said, I think you can play the middle game with that. But I do think narratives matter. Narratives is who get the awards, okay? Narratives is who people think is elite and not elite, right? So I think the narrative is going to stop Jalen Hurts from winning that award. I also think that there's voter fatigue. Lamar Jackson, are we really going to give it to him last year? We should have. I thought he should have won it last year, but we're not going to do it because of voter fatigue. Or we going to do it this year? Who knows, right? Josh Allen, voter fatigue. We're going to give it to him again for a second year. So who can be that quarterback that is electric, that has the highlight reel plays, that could be that guy? I think Jayden Daniels, despite not winning the division. And that's why I said it's going to be the first time this happened since 2008 when Peyton Manning won. So at least we know it can be done. It's not likely. Okay, it doesn't happen often. It hasn't happened in over a decade. But guess what, Zach? The most important part, it can happen. It has happened. So I do believe that my bold prediction number 2 in the NFC is that Jayden Daniels will be the first quarterback since Peyton Manning in 2008 to win the NFL MVP award despite not winning his division.
I like it. We have seen some second-year quarterbacks recently win this award as well. Lamar Jackson comes to mind in 2019. That was his second year. Patrick Mahomes, I know it was his first year starting in 2018, but that was his second year in the league, technically. He won it that year as well. So the second-year quarterbacks, they could make that leap. I like it. I think we'll be in the mix.
All right, Zach, I'm going to pass it over to you for your bold predictions, NFC.
All right, I'll be quick with this. I know we only have so much time and we want to get to the AFC, so I'll just give you both here, and if you have any thoughts, you could go for it. Both of them have to do with quarterbacks on teams in the NFC. Number 1, I think Russell Wilson's going to start the season off so bad that the Giants are going to have no choice but to bench him in the month of September, and we're going to see Jackson Dart on the field sooner rather than later. Anyone who's listened to this show long enough knows I'm out on Russ. I think the Giants are just wasting their time with him. And I think Dart showed enough in the preseason that we're going to see him on the field within the first 4 weeks, even though Brian Daboll hasn't given us any signals that will be the case. But we know he's going to be coaching for his job. That's bold prediction number 1. And bold prediction number 2, I think that Matthew Stafford is going to miss 9 to 10 games, maybe double digits. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be good enough where the Rams still make the playoffs. The situation is just very similar to what he was dealing with in San Francisco. He has an elite play caller. He has elite weapons. He has a really good offensive line. He has a really good defense. It's rather similar, actually, when you look at it. I think Jimmy G has a little bit of a resurgence, And again, I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago, but could you imagine any game that features Jimmy Garoppolo playing the 49ers with high leverage stakes? Sign me up. I'll be watching. I think we're going to see it. I think the Rams make the playoffs despite Matthew Stafford missing a significant chunk of time within injury. I think the rest of the team is good enough. So those are my two bold predictions in the NFC.
I think they are definitely realistic bold predictions. Zach, let's move on to the AFC. Let's begin with the AFC East. Who we going with and why?
Of all the divisions, I think this was probably the most easiest one. You got to go with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. They have won this division for the last 5 years. I don't see that streak coming to an end now. I love what Brandon Beane did in the offseason, prioritizing defense. They even signed Gabe Davis today, former Bill. I think that's an under-the-radar pretty solid move. They signed James Cook, eliminated that distraction pretty early on in training camp. Their schedule is very favorable. Every difficult game they play will be at home. No one could even threaten them. Give me the Bills in the AFC East.
I'm just going to keep it right along. I agree. I'm going to go with the Bills, 13-4. Look, the last year, to keep it brief, the trade of Stephon Diggs, the Bills were able to master the wide receiver by committee approach. I like the ground and pound identity, the extra offensive linemen. Let's run the rock. Let's play good defense. And I think that helped Josh Allen play efficient football. While it did limit the explosive plays, and I would like to see a little bit more of the explosive plays because that's how you threat a secondary, especially in the playoffs. You look at that divisional round, Josh Allen didn't have a great game, but he played turnover free. But it was still a modest game. In some ways, Lamar Jackson, you could argue, outperformed him, but when you take in consideration the 2 INTs, he didn't. But that's my point. If the Bills could give me some more explosion back, along with the ground and pound, they can win the Super Bowl. They can be in the Super Bowl at the very least. Now, the question would be, and I'll leave us with this, have the Bills did enough to support Josh Allen to go on a Super Bowl run? And I'm not talking about wide receivers only. I'm talking about defensively. And I like their draft moves defensively. I like the approach to building the defense to go along with the blue chip players over there already in Ed Oliver, AJ Epineza, and also Christian Benford. Now you add a draft class that was primarily defensive focused, along with a defensive-minded coach in Sean McDermott. You look at what Mahomes has been able to do to this team in the playoffs. Yes, that's where you need to attack. We'll see if they've done enough to support Josh Allen championship goals.
One last thought on them, Lil. I agree with you. I think they go 13-4, and I think, for the first time in the Josh Allen era, they're going to be the 1 seed in the AFC.
All right, keep it moving. We're keeping it moving. AFC West. Zach, any debate here, or is there some controversy?
I don't see why there would be any controversy. You got to go with the team that has won this division. How long? The last 9 years? Yeah, it's got to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I do think that this division is much improved. It's not going to be easy. Last year, this division had 3 playoff teams with the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. By the way, there are 4 future Hall of Fame coaches in this division with the Raiders edition of Pete Carroll. Stacked division when it comes to coaches. But the Kansas City Chiefs, this is their division to lose until proven otherwise. I think that Josh Simmons, the first-round pick at left tackle, he might be the key to this team. We know how much offensive line play struggled, not only last year, but in a couple of years throughout the Patrick Mahomes era. Rashee Rice is going to be suspended for the first 6 games. I think that's something that they'll be able to get over. I do think coming off the torn ACL too, giving him some time to recover to start the season, I don't think that's going to be the worst thing in the world. I think Patrick Mahomes, after having some down statistical years the last 2 years, I do think he's in for a monster season. I think he's going to be right in the mix when it comes to MVP. Spag's still running the defense. There's no controversy for me. Give me the Chiefs in the AFC West.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be controversial. We're going to spice things up here. I think the Chiefs are going down. I like the Denver Broncos to win this division, 11-6. And look, a lot of people will look at me picking the Broncos to win the division as Chiefs hate. But if I'm being honest with you, and if I am being biased, I would have been going with the Chargers. Because anybody that knows me know I'm a Justin Herbert fan. And trust me, if I had any opportunity, if I was being biased, I would pick the Chargers to win this division because I believe in him, Harbaugh, and I believe in Justin Herbert, who is my favorite quarterback in this league. Okay, but the reality is I can't ignore what Denver is building over there right now. Okay, and look, the Chiefs, I still think they're going to be a playoff team. I am going to spoil that for you. I think they are a playoff team. And guess what? I do think they end up going farther than Denver in the playoffs because of that championship DNA. However, when it comes to, all right, planting the flag in this division, I think the Broncos are ready for that. I think they have a better team than the Chiefs on paper. They're better in the secondary. They're better in the trenches. They have the better overall defense. I mean, it's close, but I think they have the better overall defense. They at least had the best cornerback in the league. They had the best scoring defense last year. You get Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw to go along with Nick Benito and Patrick Surtain. I do believe that this team and Vance Joseph, who I believe showed that he's a good coordinator last year, Sean Payton is still a good coach. Sean Payton knows what to do with running backs. Sean Payton won a Super Bowl. Okay, you got R.G. Harvey, you got J.K. Dobbins. They should have a much better running game than they did last year. Now I believe they can. And let's end off with the obvious. Bo Nix. I am buying the hype that Sean Payton is selling. I do believe that Bo Nix is on the verge, and give it a couple years, he potentially can be an elite quarterback in the NFL. I believe that this is the year of the Knicks, and I do believe that the Chiefs are getting Knicks this year, and I'm going to go with them. Look, that Super Bowl, I think a lot of people are not overreacting to that Super Bowl enough. They got destroyed in that game. What does that do for confidence? Last year, the Chiefs was not a great football team, but guess what, Zach? They had championship DNA, something they had the year before, something that teams has been able to crack the code on. But guess what? They look very vulnerable. The Eagles showed that they can be beat. So I do think that teams in the AFC and in this division will be more confident going up against the Chiefs next year. The Broncos should have beat them twice. Now, obviously, the one game with the starters out and the one game with the missed field goal, I do believe the Broncos are here. I like them to win this division 11-6.
Let me just tell you why I'm not only selling the Broncos hype when it comes to them winning the division, but I don't think this team is making the playoffs, and here's why. They won 10 games last year, right? Of those 10 wins, do you know how many of those quarterbacks they faced are going to be starters this year to open the season? Take a guess.
Probably one or none.
Two. They beat Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers. 2 good wins. But those are the only quarterbacks they beat last year that are going to be starters this year. I don't like the weapons around Bo Nix. I don't think they did enough there. I think J.K. Dobbins is a good player, but he can't stay healthy. And R.J. Harvey's a rookie. I don't really know what to expect from him. And I like Courtland Sutton. I don't think he's a true elite number 1 wide receiver. And who is this team's second wide receiver? I don't know. I think the defense regresses a little bit. I think they lived a little bit too much off turnovers. I'm selling the Broncos hype. I'm not buying it.
All right, we'll see what happens in this division. And if Kansas City indeed goes down, let's keep it right along. Let's go to the AFC South. Zach, who we going with here?
I'm going with the Houston Texans for the 3rd year in a row. I just think that CJ Stroud last year, there's no doubt, it was a bad year. Everything that could have went wrong did go wrong. Yet, they won their division. They won a playoff game for the 2nd year in a row. And they were right there fighting until the end at Arrowhead against the Chiefs. I love DeMeco Ryans. I think he's one of the best coaches in the game. Love CJ Stroud. I think he's in for a monster bounce back year. I like the hiring of Nick Caley to replace Bobby Slowick at offensive coordinator. I think that's going to be a difference maker. I think Nico Collins is one of the best receivers in the game. And how about this, Will? I wanted to throw this out there. I'm buying the Nick Chubb renaissance. I know that Joe Mixon is injured right now, and he might not even play this season. That's how bad it looks. I know Nick Chubb is an older running back that's suffered a lot of injuries over the course of his career, but I've seen this guy play long enough to know you don't doubt him. I think he's going to be one of the better signings we've seen this offseason, and I think this defense is ready to take the next step. I think Will Anderson is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. That's how dominant he is. I love Stingley in the secondary. Love Daniil Hunter as a pass rusher. I'm in on this team. I think they're the AFC sleeper that are not getting enough credit. Give me Houston to win the AFC South.
All right, I agree. I got them winning 9 games. Very low win total to win the division. I think it's going to be one of them type of divisions this year. Look, you look at the slump last year from Stroud. A lot of it had to do with the offensive line issues, the disappearing running game down the stretch with the injuries, and obviously the injuries to wide receiver. Look, the offensive line will continue to be the X factor for this team. We all know they traded away Lermy Tunsil. I guess they wanted to dump salary and try to build the line out that way. I can understand that. With him on the team last year, your offensive line still stunk, so might as well shed salary. I get it. Now, I am a fan of the defense. I do like Will Anderson. I do like Derek Stingley, and I do like the addition of C.J. Gardner-Johnson in that secondary. And I like what they did in that wild card against Justin Herbert. We're talking about a quarterback who had only 3 interceptions the whole entire regular season, and yet he ended up having 4 in that wild card game against this defense. I like D'Amico Ryans has been doing as a coach since he took over the job. I like the energy and passion he coaches with. And I do believe in a division that I'm not really expecting a lot out of. I'm still iffy on Trevor. I'm still iffy on Daniel. Okay, I do believe that I'm not iffy on CJ Stroud. I do believe that he'll have a better season than last. And I do believe that the Texans will indeed win this division at 9-8. All right, we're going to move on to the AFC.
One left.
Let's go to the AFC North, the best division in football, arguably. Zach, I'll go first here. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I'm going to go 13-4. This team is very well balanced on both sides of the ball. Offensively, you have that dynamic duo with Lamar and Derrick Henry. You still have Zay Flowers. You have Rashad Bateman, who I think improved last year, showed that he could be, a legit wide receiver in this league. You have Hop there, maybe out of his prime, obviously, but still, mismatches are all over the field that you have to account for. The RPO mismatch, the Zay Flowers versatility mismatch, the D-Hop hands mismatch, okay? Rashad Bateman trying to play like Batman mismatch, okay? And defensively, okay? Jair Alexander, I love that pickup. I like the Malachi Starks pickup to pair alongside Cal Hamilton, who I believe is Mr. Superstar. Cal Hamilton, that's how I address his name, Mr. Superstar. Always been a productive player in the league from the very beginning, from day one, okay? You also have Waquan Smith. You have Trenton Simpson. I love what they're building defensively. Zach, if you remember last year, the first couple of games, they struggled defensively after the loss of Mike McDonald. Now, halfway through the season, they made a couple adjustments, put players where they belong, and they took off. This year, I think they're going to be more in sync. I think this team is very dangerous and poised to go on a run. I like the Ravens 13-4, win the AFC North.
Okay, so I took the Chiefs to win the AFC West. That's the favorite. I took the Bills to win the AFC East. That's the favorite. I took the Texans to win the AFC South. That's the favorite. We got to spice things up here. Yeah, you know it. I'm going with the Steelers to win the AFC North. I am buying the marriage of Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin. And I know it's not the popular thing to do right now, but I think we forget. Like, the Steelers, say what you want about them, they have had a winning record and have made the playoffs in each of the last 2 years. Mike Tomlin has made the playoffs in 4 of the last 5 years. Now, I know he hasn't won a playoff game, and I'll address that eventually, but this guy wins regular season games, and he's done it with bad quarterback play. And say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, he's an upgrade over everything this team has been running out there during that stretch. I think the addition of Metcalf is going to be a big one. I think that's going to be a real difference maker for them. I think the offensive line is really good and really young. It's going to keep improving. I think the defense with TJ Watt, with Cam Hayward, they're going to have a big year as well. I love the Jonnu Smith pickup. I think Jalen Ramsey's an upgrade over Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think it's time for this team to break out. They're due. I'm picking the Steelers to win the AFC North. And I do have a take on the Ravens I want to get into as well that will come up in bold predictions.
All right, Zach, we might as well give our wild card teams before we give those bold predictions. Zach, I'll keep it quick here with my 3 wild card teams. I'm going Chiefs 11-6. I'm going Bengals 10-7, and I'm going Chargers 10-7. You can't come on the show and say that the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. People will literally think that this show is not valid with opinions anymore. I'm not going to do that. Still think you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Kelsey, you got Hall of Famers, you have experience, you have championship DNA that's going to be back. And arguably, this team should be at least, decent as far as keeping up with last year. And last year wasn't that great. I think they'd be better than last year, arguably. But who knows if that's saying much if your division got better. The Bengals, still think they're going to find their way in this playoffs, despite their lackluster defense. Look, A lot of people are not expecting anything defensively with them, but I like the fact that they took care of Trey for a year. They got that contract rework, and hopefully he can make some sacks on quarterbacks that can get the offense the ball back, because that's how they're going to win the game. It's with the ball in the offense hands, in the hands of Joe Burrow, in the hands of Jamar Chase. They're not going to win the game any other way. So I like the Bengals as my second team in the Chargers. Again, him, Harbaugh, Justin Herbert. Listen, normally in year 3, him, Harbaugh's teams normally take off. Okay. So I do believe they're going to be very good. I just don't think they're going to be good enough to win or come in second. I got 3 teams. Yes, you heard it, from the AFC West making the playoffs. The Chargers being that last team. Zach, I'll pass the mic to you.
Okay, my wild cards are the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Jaguars. I do want to talk about the Chargers, though. And here's the thing. When it comes to Justin Herbert, I do feel like he is a player that's a little bit tough to judge throughout his career, because you look at the talent, we all know how high he is at that. But he's made some crucial mistakes, blowing big leads in playoff games, throwing 4 interceptions in the playoff game last year. I know that was a terrible game, but I don't really hold that against him too much, because the Chargers last year were not supposed to be in the playoffs, and he played well enough to get him there. So I'll give him credit for that. The thing here, though, Lil, is this. The Rashawn Slater injury is a big deal, right? We all acknowledge that. The weapons around Justin Herbert are good, but not great. I love the Omarion Hampton draft pick. They also have some injuries on defense. The thing with the Chargers now is that in year 2 of the Jim Harbaugh era and in year 6 of the Justin Herbert era, you're expecting to win, no matter what the injuries are around you, no matter how bad the situation is around you. This is the year for Justin Herbert to say, okay, my team is paying me big money. I have to put them on my back and at least take them to the playoffs. I know the situation around him isn't ideal without Slater, but I think he's good enough, and there's plenty of talent around him, good coaches around him, for him to say, you know what, I'm in for a big year. I'm taking this team to the playoffs. I do like the Chargers better than Denver because of Justin Herbert. I think he will do enough to get there, and this is a massive opportunity for him. I think it's a big year. He has to prove that the Chargers are making the right decision by paying him that big money, and I know you and a lot of other people have him ranked close to a top 5 quarterback within that top 10. He has to show that this year. I think he will. So I'll have the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Jaguars. I'm buying the Liam Cohen effect as my 3 wild cards.
All right, Zach, I want to keep it with you for your 2 AFC bold predictions.
All right, bold prediction number 1, I'll go quick with. I hinted at it earlier. I think the Houston Texans are going to make the AFC Championship game for the first time in their franchise's history. I think they're ready to take that next step. I'm in on CJ Stroud. I'm in on this defense. They are the sleeper team in the AFC. Houston will make the AFC Championship game. Bold prediction number 2, I'm going to be a little bit more negative. The Ravens, I want to talk about them. I know that the narrative around this team in the last 2 years have been great regular seasons, but Lamar Jackson and his play in the playoffs have not been good enough. What goes under the radar, I think, is that in the last 2 years, as disappointing as the playoffs has gone for Lamar Jackson, he has won a playoff game in each of the last 2 years. Prior to that 2023 season, Lamar Jackson only had 1 playoff win in his entire career. He's won 2 playoff games in each of the last 2 years. I think that the Ravens are going to go one and done in the playoffs, and I think that they are arguably the most overrated team in the league right now. I don't love the weapons around Lamar Jackson. I still don't think he has a great weapon throwing him the ball. I think Derrick Henry is going to regress a little bit. I don't think he's going to repeat the season he had last year. He's getting a little bit older, and last year was so good. I just have a tough time seeing it happening again. I don't trust the offensive line. And when it comes to this defense, like, everyone's banking on these additions of Jair Alexander and Malachi Starks as big impact players. I think the Packers were smart to get rid of Jair Alexander. He was a head case. I think that is an addition by subtraction for Green Bay. Starks is a rookie. Hard for him to make a significant impact. And I'm just out on this team. I think they're more likely to go one and done in the playoffs than to go to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson has to prove that he could play his best football in the playoffs. I think they're going to go one and done. I'm out on the Ravens.
Yeah, we couldn't be more apart when it comes to the AFC North than we are. And with my bold prediction number 1, I'm going to explain why. I do believe that Aaron Rodgers' experiment fails again, and Mike Tomlin will have his first losing season as a head coach. Look, you don't buy stock in the past in mind. You buy stock with the future in mind, right? And I think a lot of people was buying too much stock in what used to be, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, when it comes to Mike Tomlin, the head coach, we are buying too much stock in the past. We need to buy stock in the future because right now Mike Tomlin is putting his legacy on the line with Aaron Rodgers, and I think he will be as disappointed as Jets fans were when obviously that failed, that Jets experiment with Aaron Rodgers. Now, you look at the Steelers defense, and I like it. I like them adding Jalen Ramsey being aggressive, going after Darius Slay, also making moves, right? I get it. But the reality is they have always had the number one over the last couple of years defensive payroll, and they never did anything with it, right? In fact, we all know in their division that offensively the Bengals could put up 30 with ease. The Ravens could put up 30 with ease, even on a good day, right? Even on a bad day, maybe a good day, maybe a good week, the Browns could put up 30. But the Steelers, nah, they want to play 1999 football. It's not going to work. I'm not buying Aaron Rodgers. He's a lame duck quarterback now. I'm not buying Mike Tomlin. He's a lame duck coach right now. I mean, look, he still could coach to some extent, but he's not adapting. I'm out on the Steelers. Save me the hype. That's my bold prediction. Number one, Mike Tomlin will have his first losing season, and the Aaron Rodgers experiment will fail. Zach, well, quickly, I'm going to shoot you with number two, and then feel free. Mike Vrabel will coach the Patriots to a winning season in his first year as the head coach. Look, I have the Patriots slightly missing the playoffs, but fortunately, I think they will have a winning season at 9-8. To go from 4 wins to 9 wins will be something positive to hold your hat on. And look, I think Mike Vrabel will bring that positivity because I do believe that he has a model. He knows how he wants to coach the team that he coaches, right? I would never forget that Ryan Tannehill had a number one seed, okay, at quarterback. He led and quarterback the number one seed. That was because Mike Vrabel was the head coach. This team knows the identity. Drake May is a far better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. I like what they're doing. I think they got a young star corner in Christian Gonzalez, who is highly regarded around the league already at a young age. And I do believe that Mike Vrabel will coach this team to 9 wins, a winning season in his first year. Those are my predictions.
The reason I have slight concern with the Patriots is I just think they're a year away. I think we underrate just how bad this situation Mike Vrabel's walking into. And I like Drake May. I think he has a ton of potential, but even me, someone who's really high on it, like he won 1 game last year. And I know the situation was bad. I just have to see a little bit more. I think they're going to be a team I'm buying next year opposed to this year. Before we move on to our Super Bowl picks, I do want to give 2 other predictions. They're somewhat bold. I just wanted to put them on the record. Number 1, I think the Bengals are missing the playoffs again, and they're going to have some major, major regrets over how they managed this offseason. You just can't rely on your offense to score 30 points a game. That is not sustainable. I doubt Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to be able to replicate what they did last year because it was so good. It's very hard to do that 2 years in a row. I think the Bengals missed the playoffs again. Their defense will be among the league's worst again. And number 2, I hinted at this earlier, Patrick Mahomes is winning MVP. I'm tired of the conversation over him and, he's had 2 down statistical years, which he's had, but I think you have to have and put some context into that. Major offensive line injuries, major receiver injuries, receivers leading the league in drops, no running game. I think all of those elements are going to improve for Kansas City this year. I think they're going to go back to being closer to the version of the Chiefs we saw in 2020 and 2021, 2022, where they are among the league's best offenses. Travis Kelce, I still think there is some juice left in the tank there. That trio at wide receiver, Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, I expect all those guys to make an impact. Patrick Mahomes will win his 3rd MVP. Those are 2 other predictions, along with the Bengals missing the playoffs, that I wanted to put on record before we move on.
All right, Zach, we might as well move on here to end off this show with our Super Bowl predictions. It's going down. Zach, I'll give you mine real quickly here. Again, AFC North, we couldn't be further apart. I'm going to go with the Packers over the Ravens in the Super Bowl. And the reason why I'm going to go here to keep it quick is the Packers were, like I said, 1-5 in their division. I think that gets flipped. I think they're definitely fare better in their division this year. I think LaFleur gets back on track to remind people that he's still that coach without Aaron Rodgers. I think the Michael Parsons trade will give them a closer to close out games in the playoffs. And in regards to the Ravens, I think they'll get here because I do believe that they are the best team in the AFC. I think both sides of the ball, I'm expecting them to be great on both sides of the ball. Look, last year against the Bills, I thought they were the better team. They lost. The year before that in the AFC Championship game, I thought they were the better team and lost. This year has to be different. If this year is not different, then I would never buy stock in the Ravens again and Lamar Jackson in the playoffs again. They have to get it done this year. I think they at least make the Super Bowl, which will ease some of that tension off of Lamar Jackson's back. Okay, he overcame Mahomes to get here because I do believe he's going to do that. I think it's going to be the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and I think he's going to overcome Mahomes, something that he hasn't done in his career yet. But I do believe that Jordan Love will get the last laugh, and the Packers will win the championship that they desperately went all in for.
Man, if the Packers in the first year of Micah Parsons being there win a Super Bowl, the sky's the limit, because this is something, as you alluded to, they've been looking for over a decade now. And if that does happen, they could be the league's next dynasty, because Parsons just got there. He still has plenty of years left. I'm high on the Packers. I'm not going to pick them to win or make the Super Bowl just because I still have some questions about Jordan Love. I think he's good, but if they win the Super Bowl this year, he's going to establish himself as like a top 5 quarterback. And as good of a year as I think he's going to have, I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback. I won't go that far. I think the Bills are finally going to get there in the AFC. I've been someone that has picked the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl in each of the last 2 years. I think that streak comes to an end. I think Buffalo did enough around Josh Allen to get them over the hump. I think they're going to get to the Super Bowl for the first time in the Josh Allen era. But unfortunately, I think they're going to go down. And I'm going to say this, Lil, like I'm picking Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers to finally get over the hump. And I know that sounds like a crazy pick considering this team finished under 500 and missed the playoffs last year. But if you really think about it, I'm picking a team and a coach that has gone to the Super Bowl twice. I'm picking a quarterback that has brought his team to the Super Bowl before and was a top 3 MVP candidate only a couple of years ago. I'm picking a team with a guy that I think could be the best running back in the game. Robert Saleh has brought this 49ers defense to the Super Bowl before. I just think the stock on this team cannot be any lower. I'm buying it when it's low. I think they're breaking out. My Super Bowl prediction is the 49ers over the Bills.
All right, Zach, I have to run. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know who you think will get over the hump. Will it be the Packers? Will it be Lamar Jackson? Will it be Kyle Shanahan? Let us know in the comments what you think about our predictions on this show. Zach, it was a fun show to do. And as always, I'm looking forward to the next show. And more importantly, coming up in 2 days, I'm looking forward to the start of the NFL season coming up.